Loud and Quiet presents Midnight Chats.
Hey, so last week was no fun, was it? Jesus Christ. I lost 2 hubcaps last week. Brand new hubcaps off of my car. And my battery died. The car was not interested in last week at all. It was not having it. And I dare say you weren't either. In the same week that Donald Trump was elected the President of the United States. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Anyway, I didn't want to dwell on him, and I'm not going to talk much about him here. I wasn't going to mention him at all, in fact, but this podcast was recorded the day that Donald Trump was elected, so naturally he pops up. The conversation of Donald Trump pops up, shall we say. But we get it over with quickly. We just tackle it straight on. It's the beginning of the podcast, and then we just move on to happier thoughts, happier things. And it was a strange day that day because as well as it feeling like the world was about to blow up, I got to meet somebody for this podcast who I've been trying to feature some way in Loud and Quiet since the very beginning. And that's Mike Skinner, who you may be most familiar with as the Streets. I've been a big Streets fan from the very beginning, and he was one of those people that have always eluded me. I wanted to get him in. I've been trying to get him in the magazine since 2005, say, and it just hasn't happened. He's not the kind of guy who likes doing many interviews anyway. And to his credit, I don't think we were ever big enough back then to warrant his time. Anyway, finally, I got to meet Mike Skinner, and it was on such a shitty day. It was actually brilliant, and it was just so nice to meet someone that I genuinely admire, and Mike was lovely, and he came in and he didn't disappoint after all this time of me trying to speak to him. So yeah, this podcast, it was a bittersweet day for me, that Trump day, in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would probably trade a conversation with Mike Skinner for Donald Trump to not be the leader of the free world, but hey, what can we do about that? So as I say, Mike's best known for his work as The Streets, a project that he ended in 2011 after 5 albums over 10 years. Is a topic that crops up a couple of times in our conversation, but by no means is the centre of this podcast. Mike, I'm aware of the fact that Mike doesn't really want to dwell on his past or on The Streets, so we pretty much steer clear of that. And besides, he's got a hell of a lot of other things on and has done a lot since 2011. So we mainly talk about those things. I could list them all here, but this is already going to be the longest podcast that we posted up. So let's get straight into it now. Keep out the way of Donald Trump. The guy is bad news. Other than that tip, please enjoy Midnight Chats, episode 16 with Mike Skinner. Have you thought about having a radio show?
Yes, actually, yes. We as I just said, we do a podcast now, which I kind of have it like coming from a period of time where really you were always trying to sort of entertain, and everything was edited. We did a TV show on Channel 4, and everything was so edited. And obviously when YouTube came along, it was like, my God, you know, if you can't say it in 2 minutes, then you're doing something wrong. Everything was 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, these podcasts start coming out where it was like, all right, it's just someone talking for an hour. And there's just something so that draws you in so much because just the way people laugh at things, you've kind of almost, we've not heard that have we really?
Yeah.
You know, you if you hear like Kevin Spacey or someone, you've not really heard him laugh nervously because it's always been edited out.
Yeah.
Whereas, so hearing hearing the way that people really respond to questions, rather,
There's something very soothing about podcasts and just hearing that conversation. I've listened to Peak Times quite a lot, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you all about that. But firstly, I suppose we should mention that today is one of the weirdest days of the year.
Yeah. We
are in a Trump world now.
Yeah. Which I don't think is as it's like we've ended up with like a spitting image puppet leading the world. But I do think that I think that it's important that heads of state don't have that much power, and I think the president should be a bit like Prince Charles. I think I think this idea that there's this strong leader instinct that we have, it's never got us really that far. It usually gets us into trouble as humans, and whereas actually, if you look at sort of studies about, if you look at a jar, if you're at a fair and there's a jar of sweets, and you have to guess how many sweets are in the jar. If you survey 1,000 people to guess how many sweets are in a jar, the average will be correct.
Yeah.
I think people think people in groups are really stupid, and they can have weird biases that you probably need to have checks and balances for, and that's a full-time thing in itself. But I think the power of people thinking in groups is unbelievably accurate when harnessed, as I say, to not bring out people's biases. So I don't think heads of state. I don't think heads of state should have power really like that. And I don't think Trump's going to have that much power. He's not won by a landslide. And as I say, when I think Hitler was quite similar, because he was just said mad shit in speeches that people that were a bit pissed off sort of responded to. And but as I say, the thing that really fucked them up, because Germany was incredibly developed and organised, but it was the sort of the royalists, or whatever you want to call it, the establishment before the Weimar Republic. They were really trying to get back to this effective sort of monarchy situation, and they saw Hitler and the National Socialists as a way of enabling that for them. And actually they got it wrong, because actually the National Socialists, or the Nazis, managed to get them out and basically do whatever they wanted until they brought the whole country to its knees. So that's not going to happen with Trump.
No. Did you think he was going to win?
I didn't think he was going to win.
No, neither did I.
I mean, the other thing as well is he'll probably catch a case. He'll probably get done for sexual assault, because they'll find something that will stick. That's another thing. I honestly didn't think he was going to get in. I actually said it on the podcast. I thought Hillary was going to get it.
Yeah, I was. I was very shocked to the thing. Like as you were saying, like Trump's not going to have that much power. Because no US president really does. So what worries me about it isn't actually what Trump is going to do or could do. It's just the fact that he's around now for 4 years.
Unless he catches a case.
Yeah, but he's been. What I was hoping was the thing about if we woke up today and Hillary had won, the good thing would have been like he might fuck off for a bit. But he's just
because if you look, I mean, looking back at the other, when they break down all the other campaigns, like they were talking about 1983, obviously Reagan, similar vibe to Reagan, but they break it down and they're like, and when Reagan was up against this guy, and you're like, I don't even know who that guy is, or even, to be honest, even with the Bush stuff, it's like when Bush was up against this guy, and I'm like, I don't even know who that guy is. And so actually, if you lose, you get forgotten.
Yeah.
But by anyone who's not American, you don't even ever register. No. And so the difference between winning and losing is huge, isn't it?
Yeah. We were trying to. It's impossible to like contemplate it, but we were trying to think how Hillary must be feeling today. Like, and it's just another level of.
But I mean, and I don't know, I haven't checked the news, but she still hasn't made a speech yet, has she?
No.
But she probably will have by the time people are listening to this podcast. But I kind of felt like maybe they're really trying to work out how they're going to... Yeah. But I don't think they're going to get a way out of this. But they could... There's clear, 1.5 billion spent. If you paid a lawyer a bit of that money, you could probably find something on Trump, couldn't you?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot out there.
I mean,
yeah, that's true. So, as much as I don't want to like get bogged down in Trump land, he's relevant today anyway. But he's also relevant because, as you say, you launched your podcast Peak Times this year. You've done about maybe 8 episodes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
How's it going? What's your setup? Is that something you do at home? It's you and Merkage, Dave.
Tonga, me and Dave, and we. One of the guys that we record with is really good. I kind of think the vibe is really important. Having done sort of shows and stuff like. I think how you set up the vibe of something, whether it's a party or a podcast, it's like I think if you get it in the right, put it in the right. I know I sound a bit like Prince or something, but there's probably worse people to sound like Trump. I know I sound like Trump. So he sets it all up, and we just literally walk in and just chat shit basically. But it's been weird that the response has been great. But from the start, it was always about, it's Tonga, which is a club night, and it's pretty much a podcast about sort of rap culture and a bit of like news, but it's kind of filtered through Dave's sort of rap filter, if you like, and so a little bit like how that sort of with The Wire, it's like you don't really understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But you kind of get the gist, and I think that's really influenced a lot of TV, and I think if you're into something, don't try and explain yourself. I mean, the reason I'm explaining myself now is because a lot of people that I know that aren't into rap don't understand what we're talking about.
Well, there's lots of, I was going to say, like listening to it, I've been picking up some brilliant slang, but I'm kind of having to kind of guess what some of it is. But you get the gist of it because of the rest of the sentence or what you're talking about. And I think that's all part of it. That's what makes it.
Yeah, but I think that post Wire, I think, and in this sort of long tail world that we're in now, you just people have to try and people have to come to you a bit, and I think, and you have to entertain the people that your target group or whatever, and just don't worry about everyone else, because I think we come from a place of everything being so edited and everything is so aimed at this homogenous mass, TV and radio. So it's not like that anymore. It's actually the way that you really do it is by just appealing to the people that you're trying to appeal. Which is why like HBO is so successful, because they don't have to worry about people understanding everything in all of their shows. Yeah,
The Wire is still the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think once you've seen The Wire, you can't unsee it, can you? And like any of the box sets, the big dramas, big HBO dramas, as much as they've got loads of other great ones, like that's the one I can't. When someone tells me, "Oh, I'm going to start watching The Wire," I'm kind of a bit jealous of them, that I've seen it.
Yeah,
that kind of.
I actually I've met Dominic West a few times,
right, okay.
McNulty, because he's kind of a friend of a friend.
Sure.
and he's a really, really entertaining guy.
Is he?
Really
Is he
good fun.
He seems like a good laugh.
Yeah,
Seems like-
he is a real He's so some people you kind of think they're going to be a good laugh, and they're actually not that fun.
No.
And actually, like, I think about it in terms of being on a tour bus. Like, the singer in the band is never that fun.
Never
really.
that fun.
He's always like
It's the drummer.
the drummers are usually wankers, actually, but no, joking. There was a thing Noel Gallagher said about what was that group? Not Star Sailor, the Keane.
Oh,
He was like, the only thing I need to say about Keane is that in any band, the biggest wanker is the singer, the drummer, and the keyboard player. No, but yeah, people who you think are going to be fun are usually not, are they? And
Yeah.
often, like the bass player is just really, really good value. And
Really, it's
you
the
wouldn't know.
bassist, yeah.
Well, because on stage, obviously, bass player isn't generally trying to get everyone's attention and wank
Yeah.
themselves off on stage, like
They're the modest ones.
They're modest, but they're also more even-tempered and fun more of the time.
I've always thought that one of the best jobs in the world is being a bassist in... When I use the example, I always say it's the bassist in Coldplay or the bassist in Bon Jovi for some reason.
Yeah.
Mainly just because of the fact that they are in huge bands. I mean, Bon Jovi...
Huge bands that are effectively a vehicle for... Or very much driven by a singer.
Exactly, yeah. And effectively, you get all the kind of.
And I think the very clever thing about actually Chris Martin, as I hear it, they split everything equally.
They do. I don't think they do anymore.
No?
I think he's wised up to that, or his manager.
But it's not wise. I don't think it is wise because, yeah, take all the money, but you need everyone to be in the band. You need them to be... I'm very much... I'm not like a sort of raging socialist because there's bits about sort of... like with myself, I'm almost like Thatcherite with my... I'm like, I need to deliver something that is entertaining, and if I don't do that, then I'll die on my sword. So I'm very sort of right-wing with myself. But I think actually all of the businesses that I'm in, it's all divided sort of fairly, but because actually what you end up with is it's in people's interests to everyone's on board, and you don't have to work as hard because everyone else is like gassed, and sort of whereas you get situations even with like when writing songs and stuff. Because I write songs for other people sometimes, but if you end up working with someone and they start fiddling over the percentage, it just literally turns you off.
How does that? This is something I've actually just always been interested in, like in terms of I don't really know what points on records are necessarily. I just know that they exist.
Yeah.
And in a writing room, when people are in a studio, there can be a situation where people are trying to make sure that they get that point on it and say, oh, well, I did a bit of it, so I want a name on it.
Yeah.
Does that, like in your experience,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's different for everyone, but does that conversation happen? Like,
Well, it happens at some point, yeah. But you kind of want to try and this is I mean, not so much maybe with like Coldplay's touring so much, but yeah, if they're writing a song and someone's thinking about what percentage of that song you wrote. So let's say you're the bass player and you came up with something like a chord change, you should be entitled to it. And it just really dulls the creative process. Whereas actually, I've always been like, if you're in the room, and for this reason you have to maybe be careful about who's in the room. But if you're in the room, you just divide it up, and that works really well because everyone is a genius.
Yeah,
everyone is a genius if you just listen and stop waffling like I'm right now,
and stop worrying about who's getting what. But there must be some bands where they've got like.
Well, yeah, but I mean the other side of it though is like I did the music for the Inbetweeners film, and it ended up being, I ended up on a percentage of that film because I don't think they really wanted to spend much money on it.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the highest grossing British comedy of all time.
Oh, cool. So we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you this, but we're going to give you a percentage of the film's gross.
Yeah. So what I ended up getting was insane, absolutely insane.
Wow. At the time when they suggested that was the deal, did you think? I was thinking of Luke Skywalker. I was thinking Luke Skywalker didn't take a cut. Yeah,
I'm taking a cut.
I'm taking a cut. This could
no,
be the
I mean,
next
no one
Star Wars.
knows. Yeah, no one thinks they're making Star Wars, do they? Really, but to be honest, I didn't really mind. Really.
Had you seen the film? I'm guessing you'd seen.
I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, obviously, the TV show was huge.
Big, yeah.
Everyone watched that. But
did you think the movie was going to be a big hit? Maybe not as big as it was, but did you think it was going to be like?
You don't know. I mean, it's really easy to look back on things like that and go, well, it's obvious. I mean, like the Ab Fab movie, I don't think that was a bit of a flop, wasn't it?
Was, yeah.
But I mean, you'd have thought Ab Fab would be huge, right? But it was probably not a very good film.
It's kind of weird, I thought, with Ab Fab that it's come out now. Like, it feels like, where's that suddenly come from?
Yeah.
Like, the Inbetweeners was kind of a natural progression. They'd done the seasons, and then they do a fit end on a film. You go, okay, well, that's all neat and together.
Yeah.
Like, Ab Fab has been however many years, like 10 years or whatever, since the last one. How was generally the experience of writing movie music? Was it enjoyable?
I just really like really just being in different situations. I'm in a different situation rock and roll is supposed to be, or this idea of rock and roll is not sitting in a hotel room doing gack with roadies every night, is it? Because that's like almost living in a ghetto. Isn't it?
Just at the Hilton.
Yeah. But that's the reality of touring life, is often just in a hotel doing drugs with or not doing or smoking weed or whatever. Whereas DJing is wildly different.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, you can really come unstuck with the drugs as a DJ more than you can in a touring band, but it's wildly different every day. One day you might be at a huge festival, the other day you might be playing a Heineken thing on basically like a hot dog van somewhere in Warsaw, and then you'll be in some amazing little place in Bristol, and directing stuff, but and doing film music. But it's literally different all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you take I took a relatively big pay cut, but I'm still doing all right. And actually, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do day to day. Today I've been interviewing 6-7 for Vice for a thing. Before that, I was in Berlin writing a film. Before that, it's just completely random.
Yeah. Do these kind of opportunities? How do they find you?
I mean, I think it's just like you kind of put out. I think it's all hard work, really.
But do people kind of? Are you kind of inundated with?
No, I'm not. No.
To you
I think you're in. If you say to people, you will do stuff pretty much for free, which is, I do a lot of stuff. Most of what I do, I don't get paid for. So yeah, I mean, you can be inundated with stuff if you've got the time to do it. And I mean, I'm lucky that the DJing just sort of makes it all work for me.
Yeah. So the DJing is Tonga.
It's sometimes Tonga. It's probably half and half now. It's getting more and more. Like we're doing. We've put in like runs of shows in. We've got a Birmingham club, a Copenhagen club, a Berlin club, and a Glasgow club.
Right.
So those are like the regular ones, and then we do lots of other sort of smash and grab type things.
Yeah.
But DJing on my own as well.
So the regular, so just to talk a little bit about Tonga for anyone who might not know what it is yet. So the clubs in those different regions you just mentioned, are they how regular are they in those spots?
Well, so Berlin's every other month.
Okay.
Pretty much they'll be every other. They're pretty much the one in London's every month.
Yeah. That's at the waiting room, right?
It was at the waiting room, and I'm hoping that it will be at Camden Assembly.
Oh, cool.
The next ones, which used to be the Barfly.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the other ones are all every other month.
Sure. And Tonga is something that you set up with
Merkage.
With Merkage Dave. Kind of after the Merkage Club night closed down.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were. It was a really sort of fortuitous meeting, because I think probably they were getting a bit sick of doing what they were doing, and I was getting a bit sick of what I was doing. And I'd been looking to start a club for a few years, but you can't really do it on your own. Not in the way that I wanted to do it.
Yeah, I read like a quote from you or something online about you saying that when you went to the Merkage Club, that it was, you went in there and you were kind of like, this is exactly the type of club that I've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
What was it about it that made you? What was it about it that was different to other clubs, and what was it about it that made you think, oh, this is it? This is. They
play quite hard music, and they don't really shy away from that. But they do it in a very Jamaican way, and it's because of that simple, really. It's this, and it's kind of, and the other thing that they do, Daryl, who's Dave's brother, and it's kind of easier these days because hip hop is quite mid-tempo these days, or it's kind of half-time, mid-tempo. So you can mix from, like, say, a Future record or even like a Drake record. You can mix straight from that into like a Holy Goof bassline thing, they were the first people that I saw that really did that. I'd kind of been trying to do that, but what you'd end up doing is you play a bit of rap and then you play a bit of house or bassline or something, and it can feel a bit like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are we supposed to be doing here? Whereas what they do is they go rap tune, bassline tune, rap tune, bassline tune, and within about 4 songs you're like, oh, I get this. The rap bit is like the breakdown. Yeah, that's the like, yeah, we're going to be cool, but the bassline's coming.
Right, okay.
And it's like every other tune is a bassline.
And is that what you do at Tonga?
That's what we do at Tonga,
okay.
But that's really what the Merkage guys sort of, for me, they're one of the biggest things they invented was that. I mean, DJ Q does it as well. He's amazing. But yeah, it's that sort of north, because they came from that niche music. You know, garage never really went away in Sheffield and Manchester. It just sort of turned into niche. So they've sort of, it's kind of natural to them.
And then the mix is quite short. It's like 60 seconds.
It's less than a minute of each song, and that's another thing. It's really tiring as a DJ, but I don't want to end up on DJs complaining Twitter. Okay.
And you've got there's like a theme of green, right? There's green balloons.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of, I'm a bit of a sort of, I get into sort of weird like disciplines. Like I was really, when I wrote my second Streets album, I was really into film plotting, and I sort of really geeked out on like Robert McKee and all these like mad Hollywood sort of script gurus. But at other times, I got really into sort of like marketing, like weirdly into like marketing. Because I find it really fascinating, you know, things like invent the category, sell the category.
Yeah.
You know, it's this sort of like, if you're Coca-Cola, if you invent Coke, you're always going to be the guy. You know, if you're Dizzy Rascal and you kind of invent grime, you're always going to be number one.
Sure.
You can't really get that taken away. And I think there's an element of that with the Streets. but and you just get into weird things like colours, you know. As soon as you whenever I'm around something where something's being created, like a business, I'm just like, it needs a colour, or 2 colours.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something that I've read somewhere. Like, my wife's starting up a jewellery business at the moment. I'm like, what's the colour?
Has she got a colour?
Every business has got a colour, or 2 colours.
I don't think we've got a colour.
Well, mate,
it's kind of a grey. It's like a grey.
Well, that's a colour.
But it's like, I don't know if it's enough, because when you're doing a magazine, I've noticed that, and a website, I've noticed that all the kind of good colours have gone. Yeah. It's like, there's not enough colours, right?
Yeah.
I'm mildly obsessed with Coca-Cola as a brand.
Yeah.
I have been for forever.
I think they should invent, and I said this already, but they should invent a more sugar Coke.
With extra sugar.
Because
I'll drink that.
It's just fucking ridiculous, all this trying to fit in with, same as McDonald's, trying to make yourself green. It's like, no, people are never going to think that you're Pret a Manger or whatever. You're going to be McDonald's forever.
Yeah.
But there's all these other companies making even more unhealthy burgers than you, killing it. You know, Five Guys, where's that come from? Like, nah, mate, like, double down. Don't fucking...
It's true, I hate that. There's like a McDonald's advert on at the moment about taking salt out of things.
Yeah,
you don't want that from McDonald's.
No.
It's like going to McDonald's and ordering like a Big Mac and fries and then getting a Diet Coke. You just think, come on. If you're going to do that, then,
I kind of do that, though.
Do you?
I like the taste of Diet Coke.
Yeah, see,
I like the taste of it.
I'm still like a child, so I'm still on full fat Coke, regular Coke. But a lot of people I know say I prefer the Diet Coke.
I just like the taste.
But what I love about Coke, Coke is one of those companies, like you were saying about Dizzy, really, or like anything like that kind of defines what it is. Like Red Bull as well. How, like, I love any brand where if you order it at the bar and they've got Pepsi instead, they've not got Coke.
Yeah.
They have to tell you.
But
you never
KFC,
say,
KFC.
Yeah, you have to say, I'll have a Coke, and I have to say,
it's Pepsi. Yeah.
You know, can I have a vodka Red Bull? And they say, oh, is Monster okay? Or whatever. Like, you're never going to kind of go for that. There's, I don't know if it's still a true statistic, but one of my Coke facts was that
Coke facts. I like that. New podcast. Yeah. Thing about me is, let me tell you about me.
The thing about Coke is that it's the highest in every city in the world. It's the number 1 soft drink, except
apart from like Glasgow or something.
Yeah,
is it Iron Brew? Yeah.
Maybe it's like that.
I think we need to do this podcast together. To be honest, I think we need to get the Coke out and just. CokeFacts.com.
Coke Facts, a new podcast.
Yeah.
A new 10-minute podcast.
Yeah.
Cool. So Tonga's going well, I presume.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's like judging it by sort of how cool it feels. I think I always remember, what's the Kevin Spacey thing about being the president? He's in one of the first episodes, House of Cards.
Oh, House of Cards, yeah.
He says, nah, sod all this like fake money power. I'm only interested in real power. Then the money follows, and he's right. And I think that I think if you try and sort of do like cool stuff, what you think is cool, I think the rest will look after it itself. But you always end up slightly slumming it a bit. But there's actually nothing like selling out, and then there's nothing more slumming it than selling out and then completely going bankrupt. Do you know what I mean? Like if you try and be cool, I think you've probably got a future somehow.
So as well as, I mean, as you say, because of your kind of desire to always be in new situations and doing new things, you've been really busy, haven't you? Like you have got a lot on because as well as Tonga and your own DJing. I mean, you must be on the road a lot if you're DJing as both. If you're doing Tonga DJ.
Well, no, I mean, I do usually 3 gigs a week.
Okay. But kind of like all over Europe, right?
Yeah, but it's like I'm basically away from like Friday till Sunday every week. But I do a lot of school runs in the week.
Yeah, sure.
I sort of but yeah, I mean I work in the week as well. I'm usually doing something in the week, but it's like I'll take George to school and then be home at 9 or something, and then do something until I get.
How old is George?
He's 5.
He's 5.
Yeah.
Is he?
Well, I've got 2, George and Amelia. But we basically take a child each to school.
Okay.
Which people all think we're divorced.
Do they go to separate schools?
No, same school.
Okay.
Well, Amelia's in the junior school and George is in the sort of pre-prep or whatever infant school, as I know it. I actually I basically walk my boy to school every morning, and he has a really good day.
Yeah.
For that, because he's the younger one, and his sister's quite bossy, and he acts like a child. If we take them both to school, he becomes quite childish because his sister treats him like a child, and then he actually ends up being quite childish at school, I think.
Got you. Okay.
And actually, if you spend an hour in the morning with your child, it's better than an hour at bedtime, I think. Although I do some bedtimes, but
is he aware, or are both your kids aware of kind of what you do and what?
It's really funny actually. They did this video. It's a really cool thing. There's a company that comes in and interviews the children, and you basically buy a DVD off them.
Wow, that's like.
But do you remember that TV show? I think it was like Chris Tarrant or something like that, and it was like they would interview the kids, and the parents would have to answer questions about them. Do you remember that?
Yeah, let's say
like ITV on a Sunday or something.
What did so and so answer to this question we asked?
Yeah, well, they don't ask you questions obviously, but they interview your children.
Okay. Well, once a year, like instead of the photo.
Yeah. Well, they've only done it once. I think probably maybe once ever. But this company comes in, they interview your children on camera. And then they sell you the DVD, but it's actually really, really funny.
Are you allowed to watch DVD first in that way, like
before you pay for it?
Yeah. Do you remember when we were at school?
Yeah.
And you'd have your photos.
Oh, the photos. Yeah.
Your mum would see it and go, no, we're not having that. or we'll buy that.
Yeah. No, you don't get that choice.
Okay, it's a gamble.
But yeah, it was really weird because I literally don't. They only get that stuff from their friends, really. I mean, they came to see me in Ibiza once. We were on holiday, and I was DJing at Ibiza Rocks, and they came. But yeah, I'm not really I'm into like photography and stuff, and I take photos with them and stuff, but they don't know really what it is I do.
What you do, yeah.
But they interviewed them. And it was absolutely hilarious. They were like, what does your dad do? And Amelia's like, well, he's a rapper. And you could hear the people were like, okay, tell me about this. Like, what does that involve? And she said, well, it involves, he has to go on holiday every week.
At this point, do the people interviewing know?
I don't think they did. No, I don't think they did.
So at this point, are they thinking, well, she's got a wonderful imagination, this chance.
Yeah. Similar to when my dad, just before my dad passed away, he had some mental issues at the time, and he told the woman in the ward. She called my mum in to the hospital ward and said, "Right, we just need to go over some of these things that Ron has been saying about you guys that are a bit strange." He said that his son was on top of the pops last week. And my mum was like, actually, yeah, he was on top of the pops last week. No, but so Amelia was like, yeah, he's a rapper. And then they were like, oh, okay, tell me. And then she's like, yeah, he has to go on holiday every week. He goes on holiday. I'm like, all right, that's touring. That's and then they said to my son, they said, do you know any of his songs?
And they do it together.
They're together.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're cross-referencing, like a police interview.
Yeah. It's not an interrogation. And they said, do you know any of his songs? And I'm thinking, and George was like, yeah. And I'm watching it. I'm like, I've never played you my songs. Like, where have you got this? I'm thinking, has his friend's been? He's fucking 5. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I know his song. And I'm thinking, how does he know my songs? And then they were like, well, can you sing them? And he was like, Purple Rain, Purple Rain. And it's because there's like a remix of Purple Rain that I've been playing that he's obviously seen on his mum's Instagram. So
your son thinks you're Prince. God, don't show him the headlines about Prince dying this year.
Mate, exactly. Yeah, I saw a thing. 4 things that died this year. It was Harambe, Pokemon Go. What was the other one? Oh, it was. And the punchline was America.
Well, Pokemon Go, like that had a very short life, didn't it? I mean, Jesus. It was in. I think by the time I realised what it was, it had gone.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants an overnight success, don't they? But there's very few times when an overnight success doesn't result in an overnight disappearance. So
I wonder if they if Nintendo made any cash out of Pokemon Go.
Oh, I was actually looking. We were in. I had one of those newspapers you get on a flight. And they had it was like the games consoles.
Right.
And it was fascinating. I think the biggest selling games console was the PS2
of all time.
Only like 155 million or something.
Right.
But it's really interesting. Like the Wii is one of the biggest of all time. But the most interesting one for me was the Super Nintendo and the NES.
Yeah.
The NES sold double the amount that the Super Nintendo.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Maybe it's like my age, but I thought like the SNES was really big when I was.
Well, yeah.
It was like.
Yeah, because if you look at like the Mega Drive and the Master System, the Mega Drive sold way more than the Master System. Because generally things sell more and more and more, don't they? But they got to the point after the PS2 where they sort of dipped.
I think. Do you play computers at all?
No.
I gave up after PS1. I think.
Yeah.
I think it got a bit too kind of like good.
Yeah,
like the graphics got too good.
Yeah.
And what I find weird now is when you're watching TV and it's an advert for a game, and there's some footage of something, and there's a little bit in the corner that says "not game footage."
Oh yeah.
Why has this been made? Why has that been made of that guy running around with a gun?
Oh, I see. Yeah. That isn't. Yeah.
If that's not it.
Well, I just did an advert for Copperberg. Well, it wasn't really an advert. It was a music video. But it was all sort of funded, and I had to read this. It's called the Portman Code, and it's like a document about alcohol advertising, because we were effectively making an alcohol advert.
Oh, things like do's and don'ts.
Yeah, when you obviously you can't have anyone drinking alcohol or obviously smoking or anything like that, but you can't even show people being successful, they definitely not sexually successful, but also kind of successful.
If there's drink in the shop.
No, just it's a drink. It's because it's classed as an alcohol advert. You literally we did this. It was like Dave was in this maze, and it was supposed to be these like life decisions.
Right.
It ended up being a little bit cheeky, and I was really pleased with it. But the stuff we had people on, legal people that were like, nah, can't do that because that implies that Dave is sexually successful
due to
this thing. It was mad. It was really interesting. But the Portman Code, great reading that document.
I watched your when it came out, which must have been last year, the film you did with Vice, Hip Hop in the Holy Land.
Oh yeah.
How was that? That looked like
it was amazing. Yeah, it was. I mean, one of the things because of obviously the subject matter, it ended up after being edited. It was a very serious piece, and we did a couple of Q&As about it. We did one in Austria and another one other places. But when I look back on hip hop in the Holy Land, I just remember everything being not as you expect it. Really, you kind of walk into it thinking, "Oh, I think I know about what this situation really is," and it kind of never is. But and the other thing is it was really funny.
Yeah,
like we did like. And I'm not even talking about the Vice people, I'm talking about everyone. It was really funny. It was a really, really funny week. We didn't stop working because we would be filming all day, and then we would have these gigs to go to of these rappers wherever they were performing. So we literally didn't stop. We didn't stop laughing or drinking pretty much for sort of 6 days, really. It was. I mean, it was amazing. We were at one point we were on in a place called Demona. In this, it felt a bit like we were in a Butlins sort of, or a sort of Cornwall campsite,
right?
But like in the desert in Israel,
right?
But it really did feel like I was on holiday in Cornwall. There was like a clubhouse, there was like chalets,
there a mascot?
Kids. No mascots.
Okay, right.
But yeah, a restaurant, like a club, basically, playground with kids playing on all day.
Okay.
And chalets. But it was like a commune type thing. I mean, for the first half of the day, I was like, "This is actually paradise."
Right.
This is like looks a bit like a cult, but actually is perfect. And then probably the second half of the
people think when they go to cults, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was ready to stay, to be honest. You know, I called up the wife. I was like, right, fuck that.
Have you seen the Louis Theroux film, the Scientology film? The new?
I haven't. No. My friend's a big Louis Theroux fanboy.
It's good. It's very good. I mean, Scientology is just. It baffles me, but really interests me.
Yeah,
like, I find it super interesting. Apparently, there's a good HBO one called.
I think I think you should be interested in things like that. I mean, I'm fascinated by the Second World War, and I think when you tell people that, they're like, "You're a bit of a weirdo," you know. A bit of. I mean, I'm not like a war reenactor. But I just think it was literally the peakest. It's the peakest situation that pretty much that humanity has ever faced. And in terms of numbers, yeah, maybe not in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
Because the aftermath of the Battle of Hastings was pretty peak. But, you know, it's like 50 million people died.
Well, you go. So you must go to Berlin like every
A lot, yeah.
You've been in Berlin writing a film.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Berlin doing a Tonga and DJing as well, but I decided that I had to get a move on writing the film that I've been writing for years.
Are you allowed to divulge any info, or is it?
It's
under wraps?
It's basically a crime sort of. It's like a detective thing, but instead of being a detective or a private detective, it's like an LA noir basically, but instead of being a private detective, I'm a sort of washed up DJ.
Okay.
Yeah. Because having sort of wanted to, I've kind of written films or bits of films before, and they've never really been very good. I didn't get into DJing to sort of research a film, but it is really like you wouldn't have to do much to really get in a lot of trouble in nightclubs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always kind of say, you know, I spend a lot of time in nightclub offices, you know, before you DJ and after you DJ. You're in an office, a bit like this really, but not as nice.
I think it's even nicer.
Nicer. No, never as nice as this. But yeah, you know, there's a computer there. There might be a load of cash in bags. There'll be a security guy and a promoter and people doing drugs, shock horror, and but just the stuff that happens in nightclubs is not like the rest of the world. You know, it is mad, and so it's just been sort of talking to me the whole time, like this would be and I guess, you know, I like crime fiction, and I like the sort of wisecracks and stuff, but I'm not into researching or reading about procedural. That terrifies me. Sort of learning about how police investigate crimes, but I know about DJing, and I know that you could probably if things went a bit wrong and you got involved in trying to sell drugs or and obviously, you know, grime music, there's a lot of characters, you know, it's pretty, it kind of writes itself.
So how far kind of down the line are you in terms of writing it? Are you you made a big dent in it?
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot done last week because it's kind of all I did. I think, I mean, when I wrote my when I wrote the street stuff, it's all about building up momentum, and really you can only do that by not having any distractions. I think you just sort of, it has to get to the point where you're like dreaming about it, in the same way that if you were playing a computer game all day, you have computer game dreams. You kind of need to have those sorts of dreams, and it was really good. So I basically just went to Berlin and did that. Yeah.
Do you find that writing process, whether it's music or lyrics or films or other projects, do you find it not easy, but does it come to you easily? I personally find it when I'm writing features for the magazine, I find it harder and harder, I think, as time goes on. I think I beat myself up about it, and I never think it's particularly good.
I don't think I'm a natural writer, really. And people, because I mean, obviously the thing that was most successful for me was something that I wrote, but I kind of feel like it was in spite of something else. I don't know, but I don't really like. I mean, by the end of the streets, I was just completely mashed. My head was just completely, because I'd been writing albums every 2 years for 10 years, and that's all I did, you know. And my head was mashed, and I was just too much.
Was it mashed from being on that cycle treadmill?
Yeah, it's just sort of exercising the same muscle. You know, it's just like a bit like Andre Agassi, you know, with his tennis. He's just like, fucking hate tennis. Yeah. I love that when he was like, I fucking hate tennis. Yeah. I was like, I know what you mean.
Okay, yeah. I can hear where you're coming from. Yeah. That actually brings me into something I was going to ask you about, kind of music you're making now, and you've released like a Tonga EP last year, and kind of all these other projects, and just the way you're kind of doing things is it must be a really refreshing thing for you, having gone through that 10 years period of doing an album every 2 years and touring, and we also now live in an age where you don't have to do that. You can produce things and you can put them online, and you can self-release things and stuff. Do you think can you ever see a time when you would go back to the album cycle, do on any project in the future? I mean, I think albums, you know, I've sort of gone back to being a consumer of music as a DJ, and as someone who hangs out with or as, you know, as doing the act of DJing. I just think that's really healthy. I think it's a really healthy space to be in, and I think even if I wanted to write another album, I mean, I'm doing like a soundtrack to this film, and that's kind of the closest thing I've done to the streets.
But again, it's really like when I did the first Streets album, it was like trying to fit it in with my musical landscape. And then, but after a while, that landscape, you just end up in this other world and it's just not healthy. And it doesn't fit in because you don't really have a landscape anymore. And so you're just, it's just not a good way to create. I think that, but without sounding negative, I mean, I do think the album has a place. I think for what we do, DJing, obviously songs are more important. But particularly with rap music, I think really like, say like the Young Thug Jeffrey album, which I love, that would never really have worked as songs.
Yeah.
But what I absolutely don't think, in the days of the CD, when I started, it was like, well, if you've done a good song, when you're gonna want to sell CDs, so make another 9 of those, and let's sell a CD, and obviously that is because you can make a lot of money now out of just one song if it's the right song. But I think it's like if you want to do a body of work, and everyone thinks they want to do a body of work, but as a consumer, we all know that most bodies of work are not bodies of work. They're 9 songs that aren't as good as the one song that's good. But some people do bodies of work, like the Drake, if you're reading this mixtape, and for me, Jeffrey, I mean, there's good albums that are still coming out, but I think people just have to try and be honest with themselves, and grime, maybe you don't want to do an album if you're a grime artist.
Yeah, that's kind of, I was actually kind of surprised that Skepta put an album out, like put it onto.
Well, that was an example of something that was the right thing to do, but I mean, I think people, because basically when the Skepta album came out, most of it was already out.
Yeah.
And he just added like 4 other songs or whatever, but I still think it's a great album. But it just happened in slow motion.
It's just that yeah. And you've a bit kind of related to that, and kind of on top of everything else that you do that we've already mentioned, you do have a label again called Mike Skinner Limited. Good name. I like the name. That was
I mean, that was obviously the name of the company that I started, and I was trying to think of a name for a label. It was a couple of years ago actually, and my wife was just like, "Why don't you just call it Mike Skinner Limited?" And I was like, "Who calls their label like their name?" She was like, "Well, that's kind of all you've got, isn't it? Is your name? So why not?" And I kind of, it's a little bit arrogant. And I kind of feel like I'm talking about myself in the third person, so I don't generally talk about it. But I think it was a good thing to do.
Does it have a colour scheme? What's your colour?
Oh, absolutely, orange and teal.
Orange and teal.
Yeah, although I haven't really rolled that out. If you go to the SoundCloud and on the website, the
site's all orange and teal.
The website's a mess at the moment. I'm sorting that out. But no, orange and teal. That's a bit of a geeky thing to do, because when you're grading video, orange and teal is obviously orange is kind of the colour of skin. I mean, people don't think of themselves as orange; they think of Donald Trump as orange.
Yeah.
But actually, on a scope, skin is orange, whether you're white or black. By the way.
Okay.
It's orange, not pink.
Right. Sure.
And the opposite of orange is teal. So when you look at colour grading on films, a really good example is that Hugo film by Scorsese.
Yeah.
If you look at that film, there is only orange and teal. It's either blue, green, and orange.
You're right.
Everything, every colour has been turned into either orange or teal, or like, well, you kind of see it as like brown, but it's technically like orange.
And it's got that nice hyper real feel to it.
Yeah, and it's just very, very opposite colours are very pleasing to the eyes, obviously, because the colour contrast is the most it can be. So it's a bit of a geeky, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, Orange and Teal.
And how is Mike Skinner Limited going? And what have you kind of taken from that?
Craig David used to talk about Craig David.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
How does Craig David? Well, Craig David feels kind of good today.
He's stopped doing that since he's come back, hasn't he? I think he has. But what from the days of doing the beats, doing your first label?
No, I mean it was. I mean, as I say, I've had the label for probably 2 years now, and I've been working hard at making stuff that I can play when I DJ. But I've been quite honest with myself, and it hasn't really felt right, a lot of it. But recently it has, and so I mean the biggest thing that I've put out recently is Grim Seeker's Kane, which is doing really well, and it's been picked up by Warner.
Cool.
But I've also I'm hoping to do a thing with JK, who's really big in Birmingham.
That's from Birmingham, right?
Yeah. We really get on with the Burst Gang guys. I think actually our place, having been chasing the tails a little bit of like grime in London for a while, actually our place, and I'm including Tonga in this, is really kind of rap outside of London, because we're really, really good at patterning that stuff up. Obviously, Merkage from Manchester, I'm from Birmingham, and so we find it really easy connecting. You know, like I'd like to do a song with like Snowy from Nottingham, maybe, and we find that really easy. We're constantly up and down, whereas actually Londoners are a bit like, they find the rest of the country a bit confusing.
Yeah.
So I think that's our place, and so that feels good.
Yeah. And what do you do to relax when you have those spare few moments to relax? You're probably on a plane.
No. I mean, I'm not like. I mean, really, just the kids. Really, you don't really get any spare time. The idea of relaxing, I think, is a pretty selfish. I think we're very selfish. Like if you look going back to the wars, there was no question about the fact that you would lay down your life for your country if that needed to happen. It really, people really did do that.
Yeah.
The idea that you would lay down your life for your country these days is in this sort of, because we've become so, and we look at other cultures and we're like, why would you allow your family to tell you what you're going to do with your life? And it's like, well, actually, if I was to choose, like I kind of feel like, actually, do we make the right decisions in love? If your dad chose your wife, he'd probably choose a pretty good wife.
I don't think my dad would.
But I would think if I was choosing a wife for my son, I'd think really hard about it.
Because
and he wouldn't end up with but she wouldn't be boring,
Should be cool, but he might not. But he might. But what you think is cool might not be what.
And he might be gay, So
it might not be what they think.
He might want a husband.
Yeah. He'd be like, Dad, you've got this really wrong. I was going to ask you if you've tried transcendental meditation. This is something that people keep. The reason I was going to ask you this is because it's something that keeps coming into conversations I'm having or people I meet who say, we had John Hopkins came in on the podcast like a month or two ago. He was talking about transcendental meditation and how he swears by it, and it kind of chills you out, and especially when you're living in a big city and stuff. And I keep meaning to give it a go. I think it stresses me out.
Well, I think it's really about what sort of name you put on it, and as a pioneer of geezer garage, I think maybe my reputation would be soiled if I were to ever admit to something like yoga or transcendental meditation. But it's really just making the noise stop. That's why the reason that we drink and do drugs and stuff. Drink a bottle of wine in the evening is to make the noise stop, or go to the gym.
Mm.
We all need a way of making the noise stop. But I'm sitting in a dark room, maybe that probably will do the job. Get rid of your phone. I actually switched my phone off in Berlin for a week, and it was amazing.
It's great, isn't it?
It was amazing.
You don't do Facebook, do you not? Facebook?
No, and Facebook happened when I was at the peak of my fame.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like on buses on the Reebok campaign, and so I went to New York. I had to live in New York for a while, and it was an amazing experience. But you just don't want to be on Facebook.
No.
But
I've nenever joined it. I never joined it because I got into MySpace. And I was into that, and I got loads of followers.
Yeah,
I spent loads of time pimping the page. And, doing a collage.
Yeah, and then someone spammed the shit out of it.
Well, no, and then Facebook turned up. And everyone I'm thinking, why is no one replying to my messages?
Right,
and then everyone's like, oh, we're not doing that one anymore. There's this new one on Facebook, and I'm thinking, this has taken me a year to get to whatever 1,000 people. No, I'm not doing. I'll do that. I'll catch the next one.
No,
this one's
I think you've got to keep on it, really, haven't you?
Yeah, but I'm
because all those people that were really big at Facebook are now coming unstuck because it's all about Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, and
there's people that don't have Instagrams, and I think I mean, I had fun on Twitter, but I was glad I left it. But I'm enjoying Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram's alright, isn't it? Do you think you'd ever Facebook now? Would you?
No, I don't. I think Facebook's. I kind of feel like Facebook's probably on its way out. We weirdly we were on tour in America years ago, and this is probably around the time when it was quite peak for me, and I went to bed, and my manager and Leo, the singer, and I think like the drummer, went out to a club,
right?
And they came back and they were like, "Yeah, we met this mad guy tonight. We hung out with him. He really liked your music, actually. He was that guy that did Napster, but obviously that's gone tits up now. But he's quite good fun. He's got this new website. It's called Facebook or something." And I was like, oh, "Whatever, mate. Whatever."
Whatever happened to him, eh?
Well, yeah. Well, that was Justin Timberlake.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
That was Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Midnight Chats is a loud and quiet podcast. Production by Emma Snook. Music courtesy of Gold Panda. Search Midnight Chats on iTunes for more episodes and to subscribe. For more information, visit loudandquiet.com.